my name's Renee, and I am a watercolor artist, but in this show I am displaying all the different forms of art that I know, which is silk and oil, acrylic, wax, and caustic. I just kind of went with the things that made me happy. One of the first pieces is an African tree, which is oil, and that was an ode to my mom, who was in the Peace Corps for 2 years. And she talks about how she lived in a mud hut in a village in Bamako, and the largest town was about 10 miles away. And then one of my next pieces is an oil, also with found pieces of rust and hand-blown glass as the eye of the bird, that was also wrapped with wonderful old silk robe kimono tie. One of my next pieces is in a handmade frame by John Michael Moore, who uses reclaimed lumber, and took several pieces to him, and he made me these frames to go along with. This particular piece is number 7. It is oil painting with old wallpaper from an old building I lived in downtown Hannibal. I love that view. That looks like you're standing right outside the door, doesn't it? And this, of course, is that piece right there. See that cello scroll? An oil painting with some rice paper on the side. That rice paper is from France. I bought some handmade paper, and then I put some threads down on the side to kind of indicate the strings. That's in memory of my little brother who played the bass cello before he died. This is of a violin, and I did that with dye, and that is a multimedia piece. And this has horsehair on it, and then napkins, that a layer of clear gloss over it, clear medium gloss, that took the dye from the painting, and once I got it wet, then it went into the napkins and the handmade paper behind it. Now, the next one is a wax. It's an encaustic, and that one was a process also, because I didn't know what I was going to do with this, the way I was going to hang it. I did a lot of heat gun with wax to move that wax and secure the little canvases to the watercolor paper that was behind it. And then we put the bamboo on top. And then that little koi bead, that little bead to the side of it, is from a shop in Tacoma. And I've had that bead for probably about 3 years now. Finally found the right place for it to go, which is how all of the artwork that I do turns out, is that I find things and I have them all hidden around my studio, and then when it's the right time, then I pull it out. Now, this next one is called In the Garden. I did that years ago when I was first starting to do encaustic, and I would take it to a couple of shows. I had this waxed leaf that this little kid came up and broke the leaf off, so I just gave up on it for a while and finally came back to it and put this real leaf on with some copper shaving. The next piece is a triptych dye on silk, and this piece is a room divider that I painted in one afternoon at 50 Miles of Art down in Hannibal. And I just think those colors, when you paint with dye, you just can't get a more glorious mixture of true color. Now, what I did with this next piece, which is Dancing Love, that's multimedia. That is an acrylic on wood with a palette knife, a mixture. And then I did cut up a silk scarf that I did a long time ago with a bunch of geometric shapes, and then put on adhesive words. I'm a Pisces, so I do a lot of koi, a lot of fish in my work. This next one is called Tu Koi, and it's an acrylic painting. It just has lots of movement and lots of striking color. This next piece is wax with aluminum metal die cut type of. I found the square nails, and then I found the bamboo at Pier 1 Imports. And then this koi is an oil painting with some bronze foil. I put the bronze foil up in the oil painting with scratch onto the painting so that it stays. And then the Chinese fabric is on the right-hand side that gives you an edge with some string that I put on with the oil paint. This gal is one of my favorite women to paint. She is oil also on glass, tempered glass, and then we use that same bamboo. We cut into the bamboo and epoxied the glass in there, but the behind is an antique piece of pillow that I opened up to put the crane in where I was painting, but it ended up having a bunch of cranes in this pillow picture, and I found that after looking through some of my stuff. And then we just did the wire around with some beads at the bottom. I just think that one turned out nice. And then this next piece is a combination of wax with a wallet, Asian wallet that I had. It was a checkbook cover. It's interesting what you can combine. One of the things that I do is I am, oh gosh, what am I? I'm a hoarder. No, not that where I need an intervention. I don't need one. But artists have to hoard things. And so in order to create with them, I do a lot of repurposing. And this tin is how I made this luminary. At the bottom, in order to have a base, I used old barn hinges that I kind of gleaned out of Illinois, and then did a lot of branch and handmade paper and made this luminary that I've been really loving to use with scented candles inside. And then this piece, of course, is altered book. Altered books have been around for a long time, but they've been making a resurgence lately, being able to take a book that some people would throw away and make it into your own kind of shrine. Once you go through an altered book with your pieces in it, it really shows where you were at and what kind of a space you were in and what kind of story, your new story in the book is told. So it was one of the favorite pieces at the show. I did bring back some of the wire that is hanging onto these nails. I brought the wire back from Mexico. This piece is a watercolor. I do lots of roses, and I try to incorporate lots of handmade paper and negative space, and then gold foil. I try to have the energy. In Asian theory, you have energy coming into a piece and exiting the piece. So that's what I do, is start to paint upside down, and then I'll turn it around and paint right side up. You can see at the bottom is where I have most of my coloring go in, and then I have usually a wisp of color leaving. The next two pieces is a diptych that I cut up and put into these frames, and then I have a real butterfly on the right hand side of the top part of the painting. There it is, the little butterfly. Oh gosh, and then these pears. The pears are just so wonderful. The bottom pear is called the pear with golden bee, and that bee was dipped in gold like 3 different times because it wouldn't sit still, so it kept falling into the gold. And then the top piece is a little more classical looking, traditional classical. It just is beautiful. And then I put a piece of ceramic leaf on there that my friend Missy Lindsay made. It broke, and I went into the garbage and picked out all the stuff. As you probably notice, I have a lot of architecture in this show, and that's from John Michael Moore. The fireplace and the column really works nicely in addition to the frame that he made for this piece, which is an oil, and that's a hummingbird that was done all with palette knife, small brushwork. So when you get up close to that hummingbird, you can see all the little strokes and just the movement. The movement in the background is supposed to be indicative of flowers and a big garden behind there. This next piece is an oil painting that one of my first boats. I'm getting proud of my boats. There's another one. This one's called Waiting. I've been trying to do a lot of abstracty motion and movement in the back, and then some detail in the boat so that you can kind of see the difference. But then this steel frame is a frame made by a man named Andre Tourette, and he's down in St. Louis. He's a fabulous metal artist. Now, this last boat was my very first boat that I did, and that took me about 45 minutes to do. It was just a real burst of energy coming out, that there's just a hint of red in the top, and then towards the bottom of this, it's one of my favorite boat pieces.